Most people think the more they talk about their dreams, the more real those dreams become. But the truth is, a vision does not become stronger when it is spoken. It becomes stronger when it is protected. A big vision is like a small flame. When it is first lit, it doesn't need attention, it needs shelter. And too often, we expose it to winds that were never meant to help it grow. When you share a big vision, you are not just sharing an idea. You are sharing a future that doesn't exist yet. And people who live in the present, who are comfortable with the way things are, don't always know how to support something that threatens their sense of certainty. So instead of encouragement, they offer caution. Instead of belief, they offer reasons. Not because they want to stop you, but because they don't know how to see what you see. Here's the thing, people don't reject your vision, they reject the risk that comes with it. And when they project that fear onto you, it sounds like logic. It sounds responsible, it sounds smart, but what it really does is quietly teach you to shrink what was meant to be bold. A true vision is not logical at first, it's not safe, it doesn't fit into existing systems, that's what makes it powerful. If it did fit, it wouldn't change anything, and change is uncomfortable for those who benefit from the way things are. So, when you bring a fragile vision into a room full of people who are invested in stability, don't be surprised when they try to protect themselves instead of your future. That's why the most important stage of any dream is the quiet one, the stage where no one is clapping. The stage where no one knows, the stage where the only thing keeping it alive is your belief. This is where commitment is built. Not in public, but in private. Not through validation, but through discipline. Think about it. Every great movement in history started with someone who believed in something long before anyone else did. And if they had asked for permission, if they had waited for approval, nothing would have changed. They didn't need people to understand it. They needed to work on it. When you talk about your vision too early, you get emotional rewards before the work is done. People say, "That's amazing," and your brain feels like you already succeeded, but the work hasn't even begun. Silence keeps you hungry, silence keeps you focused, silence keeps the gap between where you are and where you want to be wide enough to drive you forward. This doesn't mean you don't share at all, it means you share with intention, you share with those who believe in you even when they don't fully understand. You share with those who have proven they can hold your future with care. Because the wrong voices don't just give bad advice, they change how you see yourself. And a vision, once damaged by doubt, is far harder to rebuild than it ever was to protect, so keep your big vision close. Not hidden but guarded, not secret but sacred, because what you're building is not for everyone. It's for those who are brave enough to walk with you once it becomes real. We are often told that strength means never letting anyone see us struggle. So we learn how to smile when we are breaking. We learn how to say, "I'm fine," when we are anything but fine. But real strength is not pretending we don't hurt. Real strength is knowing who deserves to see that hurt. Not every person who asks how you are actually wants to know. Some are curious, some are bored, some are looking for a story. And a few, only a few, are safe. Your weakest moments are not entertainment. They are not conversation pieces. They are parts of your life that were shaped in pain, in fear, in uncertainty, and when you give them to the wrong people, they don't become lighter, they become weapons. Here's what most people never realize: vulnerability without boundaries is not courage, it is exposure. And exposure in the wrong environment leads to shame, not healing. You don't heal by telling everyone what broke you. You heal by telling the right people what you're working through. There are people who will listen to your pain and think, "How can I help?" And there are people who will listen and think, "How can I use this?" They may never say it out loud, but they store it. And later, when you least expect it, it comes back as judgment, as gossip, as subtle disrespect. That's why trust is not built by time. It's built by behavior. Someone doesn't earn your story because they've known you a long time. They earn it because they've shown you they can handle it. When you are at your weakest, you are not looking for advice. You are looking for safety. You are looking for someone who won't try to fix you, rush you, or label you. Someone who can sit in the discomfort with you without turning it into something small or shameful. Your pain is not a problem to solve, it is a reality to be honored. And here's something even deeper. When you tell your weakest moments to people who don't respect your journey, you start to see yourself through their eyes. You begin to define yourself by the lowest moment instead of the entire story. That's how people get stuck. Not because they failed, but because they keep retelling the failure to people who don't know how to see beyond it. Healing happens in environments where you don't have to defend your worth, so choose carefully. Not everyone who hugs you is on your side. Not everyone who listens is there to protect you, and not everyone who knows your pain will respect it. You don't owe the world your wounds. You owe yourself the dignity of sharing them with people who see your future, not just your past. And when you do find those people, something incredible happens. The weight you've been carrying gets lighter. The shame begins to fade. The story starts to change because the right people don't remind you of what you've been through. They remind you of who you're becoming. There is a strange temptation inside all of us to announce what we are about to do. We want to be seen, we want to be supported, we want to feel like the journey has already begun. But the truth is, the moment you speak your next move out loud, something powerful is lost. Not because people are against you, but because words create a false sense of progress. When you tell people what you're going to do, your brain gets a small reward. You feel acknowledged, you feel important, you feel closer to success, but nothing has actually changed. The work is still waiting, the fear is still there, the discipline still hasn't been tested, and yet the emotional satisfaction tricks you into thinking you've moved forward. Silence, on the other hand, creates tension, it creates hunger, it creates a gap between who you are and who you're becoming. And that gap is what drives action. The most dangerous thing you can do with a plan is make it comfortable before it's real. There is another reason to keep your next move quiet. The world is full of noise, opinions, advice, doubt, and not all of it is bad, but none of it is neutral. Every time you tell someone what you're planning, they filter it through their own fears, experiences, and limitations. They don't mean to distort it, they just can't see it the way you do, so they start asking questions. Are you sure? Is that realistic? What if it doesn't work? And suddenly, a clear idea becomes a cloud of hesitation. Your next move needs clarity more than it needs approval. Momentum is fragile, it is built on belief, timing, and courage. And when too many voices enter the room, momentum slows. You begin to second, guess, you begin to adjust. You begin to negotiate with yourself, and sometimes you don't even realize you've stopped moving. Think about the moments in your life when you made the biggest progress. Chances are you weren't talking about it, you were doing it. You were so focused on the next step that there was no energy left for explanations. That's how real change happens quietly. This doesn't mean you work alone forever. It means you move first. You let the evidence speak. You let results introduce you. There is something incredibly powerful about showing up with progress instead of promises. People don't argue with momentum. They don't doubt consistency. They don't question growth. And when you finally do share what you've been building, it's no longer just an idea. It's a reality. Silence protects your energy. It keeps you from defending something that isn't finished yet. It gives you the freedom to be imperfect, to experiment, to fail without an audience. Because when everyone is watching, you start performing. And when you're performing, you stop learning. Your next move deserves focus, not noise, so let it be quiet. Let it be awkward, let it be unfinished, because the loudest statement you will ever make is not what you say you're going to do, it's what you actually do. We live in a world that measures people by numbers, salary, savings, lifestyle, and the moment you tell people how much you earn or what you have, something subtle begins to shift. They stop seeing you for who you are, and start seeing you for what you're worth. at least by their definition. And that is a dangerous trade. Money is not just a tool, it is a story. It tells people where they think you belong. It places you in a mental category, and once you are placed in that category, everything they say to you is filtered through it. If you earn more, they assume you have it easy. If you earn less, they assume you lack ambition. Either way, the truth about you gets replaced by a number. And numbers don't tell stories. People do. When you share your income, you invite comparison, and comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy confidence. You start looking at your life through someone else's measuring stick. You forget why you chose your path. You forget what you value, you forget what you're building, all because someone else's number made you question your own. But here's the deeper issue. Money changes behavior. When people know what you earn, it changes how they treat you. Some will expect more from you, some will expect less, some will feel entitled to your generosity, others will quietly resent your success. Very few will remain neutral, and neutrality is what you need most. Your financial journey is deeply personal. It reflects your risk tolerance, your priorities, your sacrifices. Two people can earn the same amount and live completely different lives. Yet when money becomes public, all of that nuance disappears. You become a headline instead of a human. There is also another danger, one that doesn't get talked about enough. When you attach your identity to your income, your self-worth rises and falls with every number. A good month makes you feel successful. A bad month makes you feel like a failure. But you were never meant to be measured that way. You are not your bank account. You are not your budget. You are not your financial mistakes. You are the person who is learning, growing, and navigating a complex world with limited information. Privacy gives you freedom, freedom to experiment, freedom to fail, freedom to pivot without having to explain yourself. When no one knows your numbers, you get to focus on your progress instead of defending your position. And progress is what actually matters. There is a quiet power in not being compared, in not being judged, in not being pulled into other people's expectations, because the truth is, most people don't want to know your income to understand you. They want to know where you rank, and you were never meant to live your life as a ranking. So keep your finances private. Not because you are ashamed, but because you are intentional, because your journey deserves space to unfold without unnecessary pressure. When you remove money from the conversation, something beautiful happens. People are forced to see you, not your numbers. And that's where real respect begins. There is a quiet season in every life where the most important work is happening, but nothing on the outside seems to be changing. No applause, no recognition, no evidence that anything is different, and yet this is where transformation begins. This is where you are unlearning who you were and becoming who you are meant to be. Personal growth is not a performance. It is a process, and processes need privacy. When you tell people too much about how you're changing, you invite their expectations into a space that should be sacred. They begin to watch you, they begin to judge you, they begin to look for proof that you are becoming who you said you would be. And growth doesn't work under surveillance. Real change is messy. It includes setbacks. It includes doubt. It includes days when you feel like you're going backward. But when people are watching, you feel pressure to look consistent instead of actually being honest. You start pretending you're stronger than you are, you hide the days when you struggle, and that slows the very growth you are trying to achieve. Your journey is not for their comfort. There is another danger in sharing too much about your growth. People tend to remember who you were, not who you're becoming, so when you change, it makes them uncomfortable. It challenges the version of you they've grown used to. And instead of supporting the new you, they sometimes try to pull you back to the old one. Not because they are bad, but because change disrupts familiarity. So when you announce every shift in your mindset, every new habit, every new boundary, you give people time to resist it. You give them space to question it. You give them permission to doubt it. But when you simply become it quietly, there is nothing to argue with. Growth is strongest when it is seen after it is complete. There is also something deeply powerful about not needing to be understood. When you stop explaining your healing, your boundaries, your new priorities, you stop negotiating with your past. You stop asking for approval from people who haven't done the work you are doing, and that is freedom. You don't need everyone to validate your transformation. You need consistency, you need courage, you need patience. The most meaningful changes in your life will never be obvious while they are happening. They will only be visible later, when people suddenly realize you don't react the same way. You don't tolerate the same things, you don't think the same thoughts, and they will ask what happened, and you will smile. Because what happened wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, it was intentional, it was yours. So protect your growth, give it space, give it time.